Narcissistic people thrive on attention, admiration, and control. They feed off of the energy you give them, whether it's positive or negative. They manipulate situations, twist conversations, and drain you emotionally, all so they can maintain the illusion that they are in control. But here's the truth. You don't have to play their game. You don't have to keep giving them the power they crave. One of the biggest mistakes we make when dealing with a narcissist is constantly explaining ourselves to them. We want them to understand our side, to see our heart, to recognize that we are not against them. But let me tell you, a narcissist doesn't care about your explanations. They don't care about fairness, understanding, or truth. They care about control. And every time you engage in long explanations, defend yourself, or try to prove your worth, you are giving them exactly what they want, your attention and energy. It's time to take that power back. You don't have to keep seeking approval from someone who will never be satisfied. You don't have to waste your time trying to make someone see your value when their entire mindset is built on diminishing it. When you stop feeding their ego, you take away their ability to manipulate you. Think about this for a moment. Narcissists love to be the center of attention. They love to be admired, feared, or even hated as long as the focus is on them. If you are constantly worried about what they think, constantly trying to prove yourself to them, or constantly reacting to their toxic behavior, then guess what? They are still controlling you. They are still dictating your emotions. But when you stop responding, when you refuse to play into their mind games, you strip them of their power. This doesn't mean you have to be rude or aggressive. Sometimes the best way to deal with a narcissist is with silence. When they bait you into an argument, don't take the bait. When they criticize you unfairly, don't waste your time trying to change their opinion. When they make up lies about you, don't exhaust yourself proving the truth. Simply stop giving them what they want. A narcissist cannot control someone who refuses to engage. There is a peace that comes when you stop being controlled by other people's opinions. Narcissists will try to make you feel like you are wrong for standing up for yourself. They will try to make you believe that if you don't constantly prove your loyalty to them, you are the problem. But you don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. And you definitely don't need to keep handing over your peace just to keep them happy. Because, truth be told, they will never be happy. No matter what you do, they will always find a reason to criticize, complain, or manipulate. Some people will tell you that the best way to handle a narcissist is to constantly shower them with kindness, to try and outlove their toxicity. But let me be very clear. Love does not mean allowing yourself to be abused. Love does not mean catering to someone's unhealthy ego. Real love includes truth. And sometimes the truth is that the best way to love someone is to stop giving them the fuel to keep hurting you. When you finally stop feeding their ego, you may notice something interesting. They will react. They will try harder to pull you back into their control. They will guilt trip you, play the victim, or even lash out in anger. This is because they are losing their grip on you, and that terrifies them. But if you stand firm, if you refuse to be manipulated, and if you keep your peace in the midst of their chaos, they will eventually realize that their tactics no longer work on you. Boundaries are not just an option when dealing with a difficult person. They are a necessity. If you don't set boundaries with a narcissist, they will walk all over you, take what they can, and then make you feel guilty for not giving them more. The problem is that many people struggle with setting boundaries because they are afraid of how the other person will react. They think that if they just keep the peace, avoid confrontation, and give in a little, things will get better. But let me tell you, when you refuse to set boundaries, you are not creating peace. You are allowing chaos to continue. Narcissists do not respect limits unless they are forced to. They believe they have the right to control, manipulate, and dictate how things should go. They do not recognize the emotional, mental, or physical space of others because their world revolves That is why setting firm boundaries is not just about keeping them in check, it's about protecting your own peace, dignity, and well-being. When you set a boundary, you are making a clear statement that says this is what I will allow and this is what I will not accept. You are refusing to participate in toxic cycles and reclaiming your right to live free from manipulation. One of the biggest tricks of a narcissist is to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. They will accuse you of being selfish, unloving, or even cruel. They will twist your words, manipulate your emotions, and try to convince you that you are in the wrong. But here's the truth. Setting boundaries is not about being unkind. It is about self-respect. Jesus himself set boundaries. He loved people deeply, but he did not allow everyone to have access to him. He walked away from those who only wanted to take from him without truly following him. Well, he did not waste time arguing with people who were not ready to receive the truth. He knew that boundaries were necessary to stay focused on his purpose. When you start enforcing boundaries, you must be prepared for resistance. A narcissist will not like it when you say no. They will push, test, and try to break down the limits you have set. They may use anger, manipulation, or even fake kindness to get their way. But the moment you give in, even just a little, they will see it as an opportunity to regain control. That is why sticking to your boundaries is just as important as setting them in the first place. If you say you will not tolerate disrespect, then don't tolerate it. If you say you will not be available for toxic conversations, then walk away when they start. If you decide that you will no longer be manipulated, then do not engage when they try to guilt trip you into doing what they want. Boundaries are not just about saying no to toxic behavior. They are also about saying yes to what is healthy. You are choosing to value your time, your peace, and your well-being. You are choosing to surround yourself with relationships that bring life, not drain it out of you. You are choosing to walk in wisdom rather than constantly trying to manage someone else's dysfunction. Some people will not like your boundaries, and that is okay. The people who truly love and respect you will honor the limits you set. The ones who get angry, who lash out, who try to manipulate you into bending to their will, those are the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries in the past. Their reaction is not a reflection of your decision being wrong. It is proof that you needed boundaries all along. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions. It doesn't matter if you're angry, sad, frustrated, or defensive. If they can get a rise out of you, they feel powerful. They are experts at pushing buttons, twisting words, and creating situations that make you feel like you have no choice but to react. And once they have you reacting, they know they still have control over you. This is why one of the most powerful things you can do when dealing with a narcissist is to stop giving them what they want. If they can no longer control your emotions, they lose the power they once had over you. The moment you stop reacting the way they expect, they will be thrown off balance. They are used to provoking people, watching them defend themselves, seeing them break down in frustration. They expect you to argue, to cry, to explain, to prove yourself. They expect you to play their game because that is what has always worked in the past. But when you stop playing, they don't know what to do. They will try harder at first. They will provoke more, insult more, lie more, manipulate more. But when they see that you remain unshaken, that you are no longer controlled by their actions, they will start to lose their grip. This is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending you don't care. It's about understanding that your emotional energy is valuable, and you do not have to waste it on someone who only seeks to manipulate and drain you. There is a difference between feeling emotions and letting those emotions be controlled by someone else. You are allowed to feel hurt, angry, or disappointed. But when you allow a narcissist to dictate your reactions, you are handing them the keys to your peace. Choosing not to react does not mean you agree with them. It means you refuse to give them power over your state of mind. Narcissists love drama. They love to create chaos, then sit back and watch the emotional mess unfold. They twist the narrative, play the victim, and make sure you are always the one who looks unreasonable. But what happens when there is no reaction? What happens when you don't yell back, when you don't defend yourself against their false accusations, when you don't play into their toxic cycle? Suddenly, they have nothing to feed on. They are left confused, frustrated, powerless. They will try harder at first, maybe even lash out in ways they never have before, but eventually, they will realize that you are no longer their puppet. The key is consistency. If you stop reacting once, but then give in the next time, they will see it as a challenge. They will keep testing you, pushing harder, waiting for the moment you finally break and give them the emotional response they are craving. That is why you must be firm. Decide right now that you will no longer allow them to control your emotions. When they try to provoke you, take a deep breath, step back, and refuse to engage. When they lie, manipulate, or twist things to make you feel guilty, remind yourself that their words do not define you. They will try every trick in the book, but the more you remain steady, the more they realize that their tactics no longer work. This is not easy, especially when dealing with someone who has spent years knowing exactly how to get under your skin, but with time you will notice something powerful happening. You will begin to feel free. No longer will your day be ruined by their moods, their words, their attempts to manipulate. No longer will you spend hours replaying arguments in your head or trying to figure out how to make them see your side. You will realize that their chaos no longer belongs to you, and that is when true peace begins. One of the biggest traps people fall into when dealing with a narcissist is believing they can fix them. There is something inside of us that wants to help to heal, to show them the right way. We think that if we just love them enough, if we just explain things the right way, if we just have enough patience, they will finally see what they are doing and change. But that is an illusion. No amount of love, patience, or explanation will change someone who does not see a problem with their own behavior. A narcissist is not looking for transformation. They are looking for control. They are not interested in growth. They are interested in maintaining power. The more you try to fix them, the more they manipulate your good intentions against you. They take advantage of your kindness, your willingness to forgive, your hope that one day they will wake up and finally understand how much damage they are causing. But the truth is, change is a choice. And if someone does not choose to change, nothing you do will make a difference. It is exhausting to live in the mindset of thinking, maybe this time they will get it. Maybe if I just say it differently. Maybe if I just pray a little harder. Maybe if I just stay strong for them, they will finally see the truth. The reality is, it is not your job to change another person. That is God's job. You do not have the power to change someone's heart, no matter how much you love them. Only God can work in the depths of a person's soul and bring about true transformation. And until that person surrenders to God, they will continue the same toxic patterns over and over again. There is something freeing about realizing that you are not responsible for someone else's choices. You are not responsible for making them a better person. You are not responsible for carrying the weight of their dysfunction. When you finally let go of the burden of trying to fix them, you make room for peace to return to your life. You begin to understand that your responsibility is not to change them, but to protect yourself from their toxic influence. Narcissists are skilled at making you believe that their behavior is your fault. They will twist the situation, make you feel guilty, and convince you that if you just tried a little harder, things would be different. They make promises they never keep, give half-hearted apologies just to keep you hooked, and dangle the hope of change in front of you like a prize you will never win. But you have to see past the illusion. You have to understand that true change does not come through manipulation, guilt, or empty words. True change comes from a surrendered heart, and that is something only God can bring about. One of the hardest things to accept is that some people will never change. No matter how much you pray for them, no matter how much you invest in them, no matter how much you try to lead them toward healing, they will stay the same unless they make the decision to surrender to God's work in their life. You cannot force someone to see the truth. You cannot make them acknowledge their actions. You cannot love them into becoming a better person. That is between them and God. The best thing you can do is step back and allow God to do whatever He needs to do. Sometimes that means allowing them to face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes that means walking away and trusting that God will deal with them in His own time and His own way. But holding on, trying to fix them, trying to force a breakthrough will only drain you and keep you stuck in a cycle that was never meant for you. The moment you release them to God is the moment you take back your peace, your energy, and your freedom. Loving people, even difficult ones, is something we are called to do. But love does not mean tolerating mistreatment. Love does not mean allowing someone to manipulate, control, or abuse you just because you care about them. Too often, people mistake love for endurance, thinking that if they just hold on long enough, if they just love a person hard enough, things will eventually get better. But true love does not require you to lose yourself in someone else's dysfunction. Love can be strong, compassionate, and forgiving, but it must also have wisdom. Walking in love does not mean staying in unhealthy situations. It does not mean allowing someone to continuously hurt you without consequences. Love without boundaries is not love at all. It is self-destruction. There is a difference between having grace for someone's weaknesses and allowing them to take advantage of you. When a person is unwilling to change, when they refuse to take responsibility for their actions, when they continue to drain you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, love sometimes looks like letting go. There is a misconception that walking away from someone means you do not love them. That is simply not true. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Staying in a toxic situation does not help the other person. It enables them. It allows them to continue their harmful behaviors without facing the reality of what they are doing. When you continue to pour love into someone who is committed to their own selfishness, you are not helping them grow. You are simply giving them more opportunities to take advantage of your kindness. Walking in love means treating others with kindness, respect, and compassion, but it also means respecting yourself. It means recognizing when a relationship is no longer healthy and having the courage to step away when necessary. Love is not about sacrificing yourself to the point of exhaustion. It is about giving from a place of strength, not from a place of desperation. If someone consistently takes more than they give, if they refuse to acknowledge their actions, if they manipulate and deceive, you are not obligated to stay. Some people will try to guilt you into staying in toxic relationships. They will say that if you really loved them, you wouldn't walk away. They will make you feel like you are the problem, like you are abandoning them, like you are being selfish. But love is not about pleasing people. It is about walking in truth. You are not responsible for fixing another person. You are not responsible for making them happy, for healing their wounds, for carrying the weight of their choices. You are responsible for guarding your heart, for protecting your peace, for living in alignment with the truth that God has placed in you. Walking away does not mean you stop loving someone. It simply means you love yourself enough to stop allowing someone to mistreat you. It means you recognize that real love does not require you to suffer endlessly for someone who refuses to change. It means that you trust God enough to step back and allow Him to do the work that only He can do. There is nothing selfish about choosing peace. There is nothing unloving about setting boundaries. There is nothing wrong with removing yourself from an environment that is destroying your spirit. Love is powerful, but love must also be wise. Not everyone is meant to walk with you through every season of your life. Some people are lessons, some are temporary, and some will never change. You can love them from a distance. You can pray for them without staying connected. You can release them into God's hands and trust that He knows what is best for both of you. When dealing with difficult people, especially those who are manipulative, controlling, or self-centered, it is tempting to focus on what they need to change. You may feel the urge to argue, to prove your point, to make them see the damage they are causing, but no amount of reasoning, no amount of explaining, and no amount of frustration will change someone who does not want to change. This is where prayer becomes the most powerful tool you have. Praying for someone who has hurt you is not easy. It goes against every natural instinct, especially when you have been used, lied to, or emotionally drained by them. The flesh wants justice, wants them to suffer for the pain they have caused, wants them to finally understand what they have done. But prayer is not about changing them, it is about surrendering them to God. When you pray, you are shifting the burden off of your shoulders and placing it into the hands of the one who truly has the power to deal with them. God sees everything. He knows the truth, even when others twist it. He knows the damage that has been done, even when the narcissist plays the victim. He knows the pain you have carried, even when the other person refuses to acknowledge it. And because He is a God of justice, you can trust that He will handle things in His way and in His timing. Praying for them does not mean you excuse their actions or pretend they did nothing wrong. It simply means you recognize that vengeance is not yours to carry. When you try to take justice into your own hands, you only wear yourself out. But when you release them to God, you are freed from the need to fight battles that were never yours to fight. Prayer also protects your heart from becoming bitter. It is easy to let anger consume you when you have been hurt deeply. It is easy to replay the conversations, to dwell on the lies, to feel resentment build up every time their name crosses your mind. But bitterness only poisons you, not them. When you choose to pray, you are choosing to release the offense. You are choosing to let go of the weight that has been keeping you tied to the pain. You are choosing to walk in the freedom that God has given you. Sometimes the hardest thing about prayer is that you don't see immediate results. You may pray for years and see no change. You may cry out to God, asking Him to open their eyes, only to watch them continue in their toxic patterns. But prayer is not about controlling the outcome. It is about trusting the one who holds the outcome. God works in ways we cannot always see. He knows how to reach a person's heart in a way that no amount of talking ever could. He knows what lessons they need to learn, what circumstances will humble them, what experiences will bring them to a place of repentance. Your job is not to make it happen. Your job is to trust that He will do what needs to be done. There may be times when God asks you to step back completely, when He makes it clear that you are not the one who is supposed to be in their life any longer. This does not mean you stop praying, but it does mean you stop interfering. It means you stop trying to fix them, stop trying to make them see, stop trying to change their ways. You can pray for someone from a distance. You can love them without allowing them to continue hurting you. You can trust that even when you are no longer involved, God is still working. God is just. He is faithful. He knows exactly how to handle each person according to His perfect wisdom. When you pray and release the situation into His hands, you are not giving up. You are stepping into the kind of faith that allows Him to work in ways you never could. He can heal, He can restore, He can correct, He can discipline, and He can bring justice. But He does it in His way, not yours. Trusting Him means believing that even if you never see the change with your own eyes, He is still in control. One of the biggest tricks of the enemy is distraction. When you are dealing with a toxic person, especially a narcissist, it is easy to become consumed with their actions, their words, and their drama. They have a way of pulling you into their world, making everything about them. You find yourself constantly defending, explaining, proving, and justifying. You spend hours replaying conversations conversations in your head, wondering what you could have said differently. You waste precious time trying to figure them out, trying to fix things, trying to get them to finally understand. But in the process, you lose sight of your own life. You stop moving forward because all your energy is going towards something that will never change. The longer you stay stuck in their toxic cycle, the more you delay what God has called you to do. The enemy knows that if he can keep you focused on the wrong thing, you won't have the strength, energy, or clarity to step into your purpose. Narcissists are masters at stealing time. They keep you wrapped up in conflict, confusion, and frustration so that you don't have the space to focus on what truly matters. And if you're not careful, years can pass before you realize just how much you've put on hold because of them. Your purpose is too important to let a toxic person derail it. God has given you gifts, talents, and a calling that is unique to you. There are people you are meant to help, things you are meant to create, and places you are meant to go. But if you spend all your time wrapped up in someone else's dysfunction, you will never step into the fullness of what God has planned for you. This is exactly why you have to make a decision to shift your focus. The moment you stop centering your life around their chaos and start focusing on your purpose, you take your power back. Moving forward does not mean you ignore what happened. It does not mean you pretend they didn't hurt you. It simply means you refuse to let their actions define the rest of your life. Healing does not happen when you sit in the past and relive the pain over and over again. Healing happens when you choose to rise, to take steps forward, to focus on what God has ahead of you instead of what is behind you. The enemy wants you stuck, but God wants you free. When you shift your focus, something powerful happens. The things that once triggered you no longer have the same effect. The words that used to wound you lose their power. The person who once had control over your emotions suddenly seems much smaller in your eyes. That is the power of focus. When you are fixed on your purpose, when you are moving forward with confidence in what God has called you to do, there is no room for distraction. There is no space for manipulation. There is no time for toxic cycles. This is why it is so important to remind yourself daily of what truly matters. Start pouring your energy into things that bring you life instead of things that drain you. Get back to the dreams and goals you put on hold. Surround yourself with people who uplift you instead of people who pull you down. Spend time in prayer, asking God to reveal the next steps He wants you to take. The more you focus on where God is leading you, the less affected you will be by the people trying to hold you back. It is not your job to fix them. It is not your responsibility to make them see the truth. The only thing you are responsible for is staying faithful to what God has placed in your heart. Let them go. Release the need for closure, for understanding, for justice. Trust that God sees it all and He will handle it. Your purpose is far too great to waste another moment looking back. Keep your eyes forward, keep your heart focused, keep moving toward the life God has called you to live. Letting go of a narcissist and reclaiming your peace is not an easy journey, but it is a necessary one. When you stop feeding their ego, set firm boundaries, and refuse to give them the emotional reactions they crave, you begin to break free from their control. It is not your job to fix them. That is God's responsibility. You can walk in love, but you must also be willing to walk away when staying costs you your peace, your joy, and your identity. Praying for them is powerful, but it does not mean you have to remain in their toxic cycle. Trust God to handle what you cannot, knowing that He sees the truth even when others don't. Above all, focus on your own purpose and keep moving forward. The enemy wants to keep you stuck in confusion and chaos, but God has called you to something greater. The more you shift your energy away from them and toward your own growth, healing, and calling, the less power they will have over your life. Your future is not in their hands, it is in God's hands. Let go, trust Him, and step into the freedom He has prepared for you.